Добрий день.
Hello, I welcome all of you who has joined us. Media Center Ukraine of Ukrinform is going on with its work. This is the 180th day of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor, and now we will be speaking with you about the so-called grain corridor, how it is working. We will be speaking about the harvest of 2022 and also about the state support for our agrarians. I'd like to introduce our speaker, that is Denis Marchuk, deputy head of the All-Ukrainian Agrarian Council. Hello, Denis. Hi. So let us begin with the green corridor for grains. How is it working? What are the results and outcomes as of now? Well, I need to mention that there are some of the positive developments about the number of the ships which left Odessa ports. As of today, the data of the Ministry of Infrastructure, we are speaking about more than 27 ships, which in fact brought out approximately 670,000 ton of products. It's a good indicator because most there were ships which were blocked when they didn't have an opportunity to leave during the war. As of today, approximately 40 ships have registered to come to the territory of Ukraine to take some harvest. So in fact, we will state that August provided the full-scale start for Ukrainian grains. Knowing the opportunities which we have today in three other directions, if we speak about the railway, the vehicles and the river ports, we may state that we will have in August approximately up to 4 million ton of grains for export, because it gives us an opportunity to analyzing July, because in July we exported approximately 3 million of grain crops. So if we're speaking about the security, again, the declared positions within the deal will be working, and we will go on working with the oil and grains. So there will be 4 million ton, right? And our plan is to get 5 million at least to have the full scale and efficient work. Well, the figures is approximately 5 to 6 million tons. It should be adjusted because those were pre-war indicators. Monthly we had 6 million, but if there is more, we will be interested and happy about that, because first of all we've got lots of remnants there. The rest is approximately 18 million. We have the active harvesting phase of grains. As of today we have approximately 20 million ton of new harvest. So the more we get for export, the more we have a foreign currency profit, which is so important during the wartime. And also we need some of the money for the producers, because we are ending the harvesting, but after the 20th of August, the agrarians will begin the sowing of the winter crops, so they need the money. If the export goes on, we will get to the indicators of September, approximately more than 4 million ton to 5, which would be a nice outcome. But for autumn, we would like to see more ships, and the figure which is discussed today would be approximately 80 to 100 ships, because not all of the ships are big as of the freight. Someone can think 25,000, someone can have 60,000. So if we have 100 of ships to the 3 Odessa ports, with the help of the logistic routes, we will take out 5 to 6 million tons of grains. What is happening with the price for grains? Well, as for the context of the internal price, unfortunately, we do not have the increase, because it's also one of the key problems for the agrarian producers. Using the opportunities in the media center, we were always saying that the prime cost of the production of the ton of wheat is much higher than the trader offers within the country. 1 ton of wheat for the growth, in spite of the region, is approximately 5.5 thousand. The market gives only 4.5 thousand. This is no business at all. Vice versa, the task is how to survive and how to save your work for the next seasons. So we need to say that for the internal pricing position, there was no any leaps. But there is some positive dynamics as for the prices in the world. Since the first day of the signing of this Istanbul deal, without even the first ships, we could see the situation that the prices at the food positions in the world market went down, which is a good dynamic, taking into account that the trend for the high prices was beginning during the pandemic. And the regions of the world which are poor now, which didn't have the opportunity opportunity to procure, to acquire grains, and the price which has been formed can lead to the global cataclysms and hunger. So we can see a very weighted position of the UN for the export from Ukraine to begin, because the presence at the share of the presence in the world market is very high, approximately 12% as for wheat, as for 15% as for corn. So of course the world cannot replace us, and we need to take into account our priority opportunities, because in fact why they buy Ukrainian? Because it's of high quality, it's cheaper, and logistically it can quicker move along the world. Because when you buy from Australia, it would be too expensive, and logistics takes a lot. So now there are some of the expectations for Ukraine as for the export of grains. The participants of the agrarian market are saying that unfortunately they won't have the next sowing campaign to the full scale without the help of the state. Let us speak about that as well. Is the state involved in the next process of the sowing? Because we know that the agrarians felt the support in the sowing campaign this year. What is planned for the next year? And we know that there was already the state agrarian register working. So what is that, and which help can it provide? Yes, really, the situation when during half of the year of the war there was no opportunity to provide export, and also no money was also creating issues. So lots of enterprises are asking themselves whether they are able to work next season. The lack of money can lead to the consequences that unfortunately we can see approximately 30% of enterprises will not sow winter crops. This is the factor, because people financially cannot survive in their economic activity. But the positive, the advantage is that last week the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, with the help of the Line Ministry of Agrarian Policy, they prolonged the discount loans for the agrarian producers. So in fact the previous loans were almost over in August, but of course if they're short of money they couldn't do that. So the discount loans are now prolonged till 2023, and another loans in the program of 579 will be working again. One more advantage, the funding has increased for one legal entity. If we were speaking about 60 million per one enterprise, now it is approximately 19 million. 1990. It's not enough, because the average agrarian enterprise to satisfy their economic activity needs at least 120-140 million hryvnia, but it's also an additional step and understanding for the support from the state, which is definitely conducted within the work of the state agrarian register. That is another proper way to digitalize the work of the agrarian business, because all the further steps on the state support, on the help and payments which will be given by the state to the businesses will be done through the e-registration. A very nice example of the further cooperation will become the allocation of the preservation systems for agrarian producers. As you know, the silos and elevators were ruined closer to the front lines, or some of them are temporarily occupied. Taking into account the transition remnants of the new crops will need approximately 15 million tons to be preserved and stored. So the alternative way to store them is that there will be the polymer sleeves brought to Ukraine. Their capacity is to preserve approximately 200 tons. So we need approximately 80,000 of them to store the transition remnants. And the FAO provided us some support. This is the International Food Product Organization, and it will be done through the register. So this will be the first stage of the work of the register to show their efficiency. Dear colleagues, are there any questions? Please take the mic. Hello, Anastasia Kravchenko, Ukrinform. My first question to you is about the grain corridors. Could you please tell, does Ukraine export anything else besides grains with these waves? If not, maybe you have some plans to do that during the autumn to diversify export. As of today, we are speaking just about the grain and oil crops, because it is written down in the Istanbul Treaty. So not a single other products can be. There can be mineral fertilizers, which help to grow the crops and the crops themselves. But to support the deeper understanding, I agree that we need to expand this question and to involve the metallurgy as well, because for the country it's also one of the filling for the budget of the foreign currency. About 30% the budget was done thanks to the metallurgy, and with the help of the agrarian business it would be important as money during the wartime. Any other questions? I would also say that we need to claim and to fight for expanding the number of our port capacities. We are now working only in Odessa region, 3 ports, but we have a nice infrastructure in Mykolaiv region. But because of the constant shellings and without security, we cannot do that. But if, again, within the political deals which will be mentioned in Istanbul, we should lobby this issue from our behalf as well, because the number of the corridors and the crops which we have now sped up the work for the export. And could you also tell, lots of politicians foresee, the Ministry of Agrarian Policy foresees that the harvesting will be lower, so the sowing campaign will be harder as well. Will it impact the prices for the food products in the internal market for the consumers? Well, we do not have a disastrous situation as for the harvesting. Yes, we won't have the top harvest. Last year we had approximately 107 million. This year it will be 60 to 65 million, but still it is 3 times more than we consume in all of the spheres. So we will see the potential for the grains to have the same price in Ukraine and to sell them for the export. As for the pricing for food products, if we are speaking about the food products basket for Ukrainian households, or about the pricings for grain, what are we speaking about? Well, I'm interested in the food product basket for a usual consumer. Should he or she expect in half a year the increase of the price for bread, for grains, for cereals? Well, yes, it's an important question, because knowing that approximately 60% of this family budget is spent for food products, and the budget of each family, it depends on that. During the active combat, for combatant warfare, during the half of the year, we saw the increase of the prices, sometimes up to 30%, because of inflation, because of the violation of logistics ways, and the price for the fuels also changed. The trend for the autumn includes these factors, and also it adds one more important factor: energy, that is electricity and gas. So when we have the active phase, for instance, now we have cheaper vegetables than they used to be in June, because we have lots of cucumbers and tomatoes, but now they are becoming cheaper. But in October, in fact, the prices can go up for about several percent, because we will have them in the storing systems, and the cooling cameras which are using electricity, unfortunately, will impact the prices. So the same is about bakery products. If we speak about bread, we can see the tendency that during July and August, the prices for some types of the bread went down, because the prices for dough went down. But what will happen in September? Because if we foresee that the export strengthens, the prices for cereals and grains in the country can increase. So these positions will provide us the trend, but we need to analyze that in September. I thank you. I'm reminding us, we had Denis Marchuk, Deputy Head of the All-Ukrainian Agrarian Council. Thank you for your info. Dear colleagues, our next briefing will take place at 1:30 p.m. and we'll be speaking about the situation in the south of the Ukraine. Stay with us.